Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back to Generational Farming. You can see it's a rainy August morning here on the farm. So not a lot going on. Got another farmer over there. Looks like they were cultivating, which they should be able to keep doing through the rain. But they may just be at a point where they can't be operational. Not sure. But just did notice them as I pulled off on the field. So I've got some liming to do this morning, and while I'm going to go ahead and do that, I figured I'd bring you along for a little bit. So let me get the equipment. So I'm looking for the fertilizer spreader with the extension and the larger spreading disc. Go ahead and lease that for $2,773. And then I will go ahead, fill it up, and obviously get going. Whoops, a little too fast there. So we need to go grab lime, which is down by the South Grain Mill. I'm not sure if I've showed that. I'm sure I probably have, as far as where things are located. But looks like there's a few potato contracts out there, which can be done in the rain, and a barley contract, which obviously cannot, or, well, can, but will not be completed, because you'll end up not generating enough harvest potential from it. So it'd be a bad thing to do. Doesn't mean someone won't try. But we've got the point here. I've gotten 2 harvests done. So at this point I have got my silos churning away from yesterday's harvest. Tomorrow will be the next one, which is why it's crucial that I get on here to go ahead and get the lime done at this point. So just trying to be careful as I head around here. Gotta open up the cover, but this is where we get lime. So go ahead and fill that up. So I'm observing this year, I'm being a lot more focused on exactly the timing of how things work, because I need to plan for next year, which is going to be the end cycle on this generation. So we did get a post yesterday, I believe, from FSN leadership that we are authorized to sell everything on our map other than the 3 pieces of equipment we are taking with us, and to be ready with that by winter 1 at some point. So what that really means is, well, in my case, because the tractor and the forage wagon are things I am moving, I can go ahead and be transporting things, but obviously I've got to be careful that I can get everything done as far as the sale, so that I can sell my silo and so forth before they're ready to move. So I do want to be as empty as possible with my silos, probably by the fall, for sure. Alright, so let me... I missed that little corner. It's always a bit of a challenge with the lime here. I'm missing another segment here. I'm just not starting out well. But we'll clean those up later. But this is always the bit of the challenge here, and I'm drifting again, so if I'm not careful, I'm going to have the same problem. I'm always feeling, and that's the issue, it's like optical illusion a little bit as far as, oh, I'm going down the field properly, and then you suddenly find out not so much. So the lime, again, a good amount of lime gets used across all my fields, so there's definitely a lot of spreading. I think I end up using 3 or 4 trailerfuls here. But we'll go ahead, we'll get that done. And then we'll run ourselves down here, get ourselves that, get this done, you know, kind of the awkward part of it, if you want to call it that, the part that's not as squared up. And then I'll get that triangular piece done, and we'll go from there. But you can see we're dropping 0.75 here at the north end, which is substantial. But the good news is this is a large enough thing that it doesn't really take, or it gets a large amount of the field done, is really what I was meaning to say there. We started with 14,000, we're still above 10, so we barely used 4,000 liters, and we're going ahead and kind of running another group here. And maybe I'm misremembering what we need here. Maybe we need much more than I thought, because at this point it's looking like I'm going to use 3 trailers just to get this field done. But just starting out here so that I can do that. Alright. And I'll touch up the corner and that end when I get over on the other side there. So heading on over to my silos, you can see my small silos, I've got about 74,000 or 110 left. Large have 151 to 177, and I've got a good amount of space left where those can continue to generate and function throughout the day. But tomorrow I'm likely going to be at the point where I do need to be careful, and I do need to be ready to engage with likely moving some out so that I can keep things going. And that's really what I'm looking for at this point, is what that timing point is, so that I can understand what I'm looking at from a sell point and a timing in year 8 on the farm here, which will be year 110 within FSN. And then I can appropriately get everything removed from the map, but get the maximum amount of revenue that I possibly can from what I'm doing here. So that's really the focus. I've done no contracts since last year. I think the year before that year, last year, I think I had done a cultivating one. I may have done a fertilizing one here and there. I'm just ultimately determined it's so inconsequential with the volume that I'm talking about that I just don't spend the time on it. I can get much more value out of just doing what I need to here, and then now that I've started up my regular farm again, I just, I want to make that shift in time, and spending time here to make maybe if I'm lucky, $10,000 an hour, just really isn't a good bang for the buck, is what I've kind of determined, because this generates so much cash as it is with the grass, that I'm not seeing a need for eking out another $50,000 a year, because I can do so much better and stay far enough ahead that I don't really need to worry about that. And if people want to kind of try to play catch up, obviously they're welcome to do that. I just think it's going to be a real challenge, and I don't know that it's possible at this point. Now over 7 to 10 generations, who knows? You know, that's what remains to be seen. And there we go. We've got that touch-up done. Alright. Thought I had it off, but I was getting a little confused on how it was slowing down and speeding up. But those are the decision points that I'm having to make, and so really what I wanted to share was just kind of what I was thinking through, because I'm thinking I'm going to do 3 harvests next year, so that basically this September harvest that's coming up I will still do, because I believe that will be able to be processed as long as I give enough space in the silo to do that, because it only really fills up about half. What I've determined is these first 2 harvests, the silos are able to kind of keep going, have the capacity for it. So there was a little bit of processing that was still going on when I jumped on in July to go ahead and do the harvest. So it does seem to take a little bit more than that day, but once again, if I'm not cutting anything in November, I'm not sitting there and putting that into the silo and taking a lot of time. And what I could always do is, as I said, if I suddenly determine that might be different on the November day, if I'm suddenly transporting things, seeing early in the morning that I'm doing well and that everything is being sold off, which I certainly could do, I could then at least have the silos generate another 300,000 or 400,000 liters between all 4 silos in the course of a day, and have some additional sales there. But then that also means I don't need as much harvest to go ahead and do that. So I wouldn't have to cut the entire fields in November for certain, because I do need to run into basically January to fully process that, and we're not going to be here then. All right. So that is where we're at. Obviously nobody is really running anything right now. Take a look at the map. You know, this is the, I believe, the other grass harvest that's going on, so I don't know if they're harvesting. It looks like there's been some movement of the other farmer off of 44. Alright, so I am out of lime for the first time. So I don't know that I got half. I got a good amount of the field done, that's for sure. But yeah, the other farmer had moved up to their farm, so at this point, you know, what it really becomes, I assume, for them is the debate of, do they want to go through the time it's going to take for potatoes, because that is hours and hours and hours of work. You know, and it just becomes a, is it worth it? And again, that's the FM that now has 4 fields, 2 of grass, 2 of crops. So they certainly have plenty of work on their own farm. You know, that field in front of us and that one up there, the one that's green, both of those are their field now, 31 and 30. And it looks like they haven't planted anything in 31. So they may have missed a window, they may be waiting for something else. You know, they may go ahead and plant it in the winter, and then go ahead and obviously they'll be able to harvest it when the year comes around. But I would imagine that's creating a lot of work for them directly on their farm. And obviously, you know, folks do what they enjoy, and you know, if that's what they want to do is run some crops, that's what they're choosing to do, so that's great. and but I think that makes tough decisions for contracts, because if I'm them, I'm certainly weighing the choice of, do I want to spend 4 or 6 hours today working on potatoes, and then knowing that I have however many hours coming up tomorrow to do something on the farm. So sometimes, you're on and you're like, I'm just going to skip that effort today, because making the $20,000 that I'm going to make, it's just going to make me real unhappy working my farm tomorrow, so I'm just going to wait. So those are usually the decisions that I've seen that I'm weighing in many cases, and frankly why I've chosen to stay away from contracts. I kind of did the grind in the beginning to get things going so that I could get myself on solid footing, but now that I have a clean plan and a clean revenue stream and an operating plan here for the farm, I just have determined I don't need to do that anymore, and so it's a quality of life decision. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and continue doing what I'm doing, but I wanted to get you up to speed there. Let this wrap up, and I will see you next time.